Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. Today we're going to be doing a review of Batman KnightQuest, The Crusade, Volume 2. Hey everybody, and welcome back to BK's Bullets. As always, I am your host, Brent here today to talk with you about my favorite iteration of Batman, because this is how I got into comics. KnightQuest, Batman, right over here. This is the statue head. There's a link to a video somewhere here in the cards. Love this little guy. But we're going to be doing a review of The Crusade, Volume 2, Batman KnightQuest. So this is part of the newer collection of trades. You can also find this story in the Batman KnightQuest Omnibus if you're reading them that way. But this is, the third of, one of the spines, stuff like that. So we did a review of Volume 1, and we're going to read The Search next. And that would complete the trifecta of the spines if you put them all like this here. So these were collected in, I want to say it was 2018. I just got my set last year, but I love this set. So The Search has never been collected, so I've never read it, so I'm interested to read that. But I have read I surprisingly had read a number of books here in this KnightQuest volume, and I say a number of them because when I got into comics, I remember going into a Toys R Us at one point in time and picking up like a 10-pack of DC Comics, okay? So in there were a number of issues, and when I was cleaning out my kids' playroom closet the other week, I found my old binder of the original comics I had, which I reread to death. So here they are. This is Batman 505. This is when Abattoir first meets Batman. The cover has fallen off. The pages are yellow, but it's, reading the trade paperback was exactly as I remember reading and rereading and rereading and rereading and rereading this issue over and over again, that the covers have fallen off. Also in here, we had Shadow of the Bat 25. This is when he gets the upgraded helmet that you see on the bust here to my left. And then he adds the actual bat symbol to the costume. Before then, it was just solid blue, and then as of that issue, he added it. Then I had the first meeting of him and Gunhawk. This is Detective Comics 674. Also in here was the Batman 508, where Abattoir is killed, and that's a pivotal issue in terms of this storyline. And I also had Detective Comics 675. This is the final battle with Gunhawk, and the first appearance of this bladed suit, stuff like that, which you would see on this Mattel figure. This is the KnightQuest, I think it's called the KnightQuest Batman, but, this is what they did for Azrael from Mattel when they were producing the DC Multiverse line. Love, 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 love this figure. The only thing wrong about it is these are backwards, but whatever. One thing that was funny also in there was the conclusion of the story, which I thought was neat. This is the end, KnightQuest Part 10. This is where Bruce reclaims the mantle. And somehow his costume gets red. How does that happen? We'll find out in a future video. But what was interesting, because I've been looking at this image for many, many years, saying this is one of my favorite covers of all time, and just because it was so cool. And I didn't realize, guys, that Kelly Jones did the cover. That's his signature right there. I didn't realize this was a Kelly Jones cover. Hell, I didn't realize that Kelly Jones did all the covers for all of the books in here except for the Shadow of the Bat issues. Kelly Jones does all the covers except for the Shadow of the Bat ones, which, if you saw the Batman Shadow 25, this is a beautiful Brian Stelfreeze painted cover. He did all the Shadow of the Bat. So, I did not know that. I thought I wasn't a Kelly Jones fan. Turns out I'm still not really a Kelly Jones fan in certain areas, but I am a Kelly Jones fan when he draws my Batman right here. So what is in The Crusade Volume 2? And what is The Crusade? So what's in here? Let's go through it. This is Detective Comics 671, 72, 73, 74, 75. Batman Shadow of the Bat 24, 25, 26, 27, 28. Batman 505, 506, 507, 508. And Showcase 94, number 7. So that is what's in here. This is a thick boy compared to that Search trade paperback. All in all, this is probably, I don't know, 18 issues or so, something like that. It's pretty thick. It's more than 12 for sure. So just like Volume 1 of the Crusade, which I really, really liked, really appreciated, was the thing that they did in terms of like mapping where the issues go. Because I somehow figured out what the reading order for the single issues were when I was a kid. I just, read, oh, well, this costume's here. The last, in 675, this cover here, he's all beat up and shot up. So when did that happen? Well, that happened when he first met Gunhawk, etc., etc. But the way they map them in here in Crusade Volume 1, and they continue that here in Crusade Volume 2, is they put all the storylines together. So this issue kicks off with Azrael Batman, Azbats, Jean-Paul Valley, whatever you want to call him, going up against the Joker, which you would think, after reading Knightfall Part 1, where the Joker totally decimates Batman with the flooding of a tunnel and everything, the Joker would be a fearsome foe for Azbats to take on. Actually, Joker's a little goofier in this one. It's Chuck Dixon writing, so this is part of the Detective Comics title. And Joker's actually like setting up a movie, and he's trying to kill Batman and film it at the same time so that he can then sell it to a movie studio. It's a little wacky, but it's a whole lot of fun. You've got Graham Nolan on art and Scott Hanna on inks, which really makes this art sing. And I'm noticing after reading these issues and knowing that my favorite inker for John Romita Jr. is Scott Hanna, based on his JMS Spider-Man stuff, Scott Hanna is definitely a very, very good inker. But yeah, this is like a little 3 or 4 parter. And then once that's done, it switches over to the Shadow of the Bat, I think 1 or 2 issues. Then it goes to like an issue of Batman, then back to Shadow of the Bat, and then a bunch of issues more of Batman at Detective Comics, then back to Shadow of the Bat with this weird Clayface 3-parter, or 2-parter. It was 2 parts. That was definitely weird because I did not know. I'd seen this cover before with this snake creature. I didn't know that was Lady Clayface. I didn't know there was a Lady Clayface. Hell, I didn't know that there was a Clayface 3. And they call him Clayface 3 in the issues. They don't call him by his name or just Clayface or his code name, whatever. They just go, Clayface 3 is on the loose. And this is the Clayface that looks kind of like Mr. Freeze here. So apparently he's called Clayface not because he turns into clay and can shapeshift. Lady Clayface can. She can do that stuff. Clayface 3 has an acid touch, and when he touches you, you burn. And like you melt? Yeah, you kind of melt away. Melt away until you're like a glob of goop. Now, what's weird is we had the Corrosive Man show up in Shadow of the Bat 25, and he's the guy that actually, he trashes the original Azbats costume here. You can see all the holes and stuff in it. And at the end of that issue, we had what was this double-page spread, but it's a single page here. Let's open up the real issue. It was really cool. Had to turn it sideways. Look at that. That was the one downside about these trades. Like they it's nice to just rotate it so you don't have to hold the trade up like this and try and read it. But look how much this art sings from, I think this is Brett Blevins. Yeah. How much this sings compared to this, kind of downsized version. So even in the omnibus, I don't know if they do this double page spread for the vertical ones, which is really kind of a 90s thing. They were doing this a whole lot in the 90s. Instead of just reading it across, they would make you turn the book that way. But I love this page. I love this. Love it, love. But yeah, so it's just here. The only way I knew it was because I remembered it, and the text boxes are a little bit smaller. They didn't like upsize them or anything in the collection to make them easier to read, because you can read that just fine, and then you look at that and you're like, why is it so small? But anyway, yeah, Clayface 3, had no idea he was in here, had no idea what he was or anything. It was just weird that this guy kind of has the same powers as the corrosive man, who just was like had acid on his skin, and it's almost like if you tossed acid at you, that would, you know, corrode you. Whereas like if Clayface, if he touches you, you're like instant glue on the floor kind of thing. It's really weird. But it was also fun to read all these stories and see how the character of Abattoir, that's this guy in this green cloak here, he's this crazy serial killer. Once he shows up here about halfway through this volume, not halfway, more than halfway. Once he shows up in Batman 505 in this issue, so you're about a quarter in. Once he shows up in 505, they take this character of Abattoir, whom I only read in 2 issues in those old issues from my childhood. They thread the needle of this storyline, you know, and Batman hunting him after he escapes Batman in almost every issue of the series after that. There's little hints, there's little references. This alien guy, what's this guy's name? It's Ballistic. He shows up here in the next issue of Batman, and he's trying to hunt down, there's a contract out on Abattoir, and him and Batman kind of team up. The weird part is this Ballistic guy is like, I don't know if he's an alien or something, but he's got these weird horns on his chin. It's really strange. This is the guy right here. So I don't know if this came out of like the weird Bloodlines crossover in the 90s. It's unclear. But he shows up for 2 issues and then disappears, so it doesn't really matter. But love. And surprisingly, like, who drew this? Is this Brent Blevins again? Yeah, so when Brent Blevins comes back, when you're going back to this Shadow of the Bat page, like, for some reason, the issue number 25 was really, really dirty because it was in the rain. It had the corrosive man, like, it was a little scratchy. But reading this 2-issue arc with the Clayface characters, like, look at this spread. It's so clean. It's so beautiful. This is now one of my new favorite renditions of KnightQuest Batman. It's beautiful. I don't know what happened, if you got a different inker or what, so I'll have to investigate more. But it's just so clean, I guess because it's so technical. Really, really sings. Whereas, like, you look at his faces and stuff, they're kind of all over the place. Not bad, but just stylistically, it seems very different. But anyway, I loved this book, and I don't know if that's because it's a good read or if because it's just my childhood all in one volume. Like, this is everything I read and reread for many, many years up until I think Batman Hush came out. I reread those issues many times. And I knew that there were 2 Batman for years just because of those issues. And it's funny that most of them are collected in here, except for the Robin issue and the conclusion of Night's End. I just think that's hilarious. But I really had a lot of fun with this book. So if you're just looking for some more Azbats stories, definitely check this out. There's the little thread of Abattoir coming in here. And, you know, they're kind of threading the needle about how Jean-Paul Valley and stuff goes crazy. But they're not going into a whole bunch. Like, I was surprised how little there was of the, figures of Saint Dumas and his father. Because I remember when I was reading Batman 505, like the second page, Saint Dumas appears to him, and his father does, and they're arguing over, this is falling apart, they're arguing over, who's right, whether he should be an avenging angel or a crusading knight. And it's kind of helping Jean-Paul Valley go a little bit more insane each time he has these visions. They don't really have a whole lot of that in this volume or volume 1. So I don't know if that's going to be explored more if we do see KnightQuest Batman in the Search volume or what. So that was something that I was left wanting more of, to see how it truly drove him crazy. But what's interesting here about the final Abattoir issue here in, I'm trying to find the real one now. That's going to hurt me. It's buried. Here we go. 508. What's really interesting, rereading it after I've seen like Batman Begins more recently, is how you have this page where Robin's looking at what happened, and he says, "You let him die." And it's like, isn't that what Batman did in Batman Begins with Ra's al Ghul on the train? I think so. But it's interesting that this is the thing where they start going after him, and immediately after this issue, in the collection here, you have Commissioner Gordon confronting Batman about letting this guy die, and how Graham Etchison dies because they never found out that Abattoir had kidnapped this guy and was torturing him. He died because nobody bothered to check, so that makes him a murderer. So really there's like 2 murders at the hands of Azbats here in this volume. And then it's just the final issue in here is that Detective 675 with this cover, where it's just Jean-Paul Valley's just kind of, he hasn't really lost it. He's kind of the same, but he just doesn't care anymore. And it shows how violent he becomes with this new armor. But it's also interesting that, like, this armor's not around that often, not around very much. And that's the thing that he has for 10 issues in Night's End. And, my favorite action figure that I've ever gotten is this guy, that kind of thing. So he was in the original KnightQuest armor, this one here, a lot longer than I actually thought after reading these 2 volumes. So that was another interesting fact. Still love this one, but, for me, it's got to be the craziness. Got to be the 90s craziness. So I think it's fun. If you enjoy the concept of Azbats and this imposter Batman, and you know that there are going to be some things you don't like, he's still brutal, but I mean, what Batman story have you read where he's not that brutal? Or where he's like, oh, can I not punch you so fast? There's a whole lot less talking. There's a whole lot less dialogue in the KnightQuest volumes because it's all internal monologue. Jean-Paul Valley doesn't want Robin running around with him. He's kind of distancing himself. So it's a whole lot of caption boxes and then dialogue between the other characters, whether it's the cops or the villains, that type of thing. Another thing I did not know, which I now know because I've read it all through these guys, is kind of the arc of Commissioner Gordon. We actually explore that between Volume 1 and Volume 2, and it comes to a head in the penultimate issue in this collection, which is a Shadow of the Bat issue. I think it's this, 28. And it's Gordon calling Batman with the bat signal and saying, who are you? You're not the Batman I grew up with. I recognize that I know. And don't you dare do this again. You killed this guy. You're a murderer. And they're like, he almost, he throws a punch at Commissioner Gordon throws a punch at Batman. Batman dodges, and Commissioner Gordon goes off the side of the building. And Batman grabs him and makes a point to say, if I didn't care so much about human life, I would let you die right now. Pulls him back and then leaves. And it's like, that is a crazy thing for Batman to say. And Batman purists will definitely hate it. But if you're just reading it for the 90s fun, it's a great, great moment. So I recommend it. But again, take it with a grain of salt. This was my childhood. I loved rereading this. And rereading the issues I read before many, many times. And I loved reading for the first time the Joker story, the Clayface story, that, Commissioner Gordon moment, all that stuff that was in here that I did not know about at all. So check it out. I recommend it. This retails for $20 back here. And again, this has got the nice spine. And it doesn't say 25th anniversary anywhere, but you can find it pretty easy. It's got, these new ones have this big banner. So anyway, thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think of Azbats in KnightQuest, The Crusade, Volume 2, and let me know your thoughts down below. I will be down there answering any questions you have in the comments. Thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and as always, we will see you guys next time in the Funny Pages.